Stephen, can I call you Stephen?
You sure can.
Let's talk about stuff that you want to talk about, something that maybe the fans out there, new and old, aren't aware about Stephen King. You know, what lies under the surface of Stephen King? What the hell lies under the surface of Stephen King?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I like to write, and we have a place down in Florida in the wintertime, and I really like the beach, but, in my spare time, I play my guitar, and I got involved with this group called the Rock Bottom Remainders. So we're going to play next year, actually this year now, and I'm sort of looking forward to that. And the only thing is, like, Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson, who play with the group, are really good.
Right.
So there's a little bit of, a feeling of inferiority there. And I mean, one thing that's really good for me is that it's great to be with a bunch of guys, who are doing something in public where it's sort of a team effort, because writing is kind of a solitary thing. And the thing with the Marvel deal is that there were several people who would ask me like this and that, and how much input did you have into this, or whose idea was that? And I'm like, it's a team effort. So when things go right, as it seems to be with this, everybody shares the credit, and if things go wrong, I don't have to take it on the chin all by myself. We hope everything won't go wrong, but basically I'm just this ordinary guy. When I get back, I play a little tennis. I've got to get my bowling shoes and find out where they are. We're in Florida. We didn't really want to go to Florida, but we got to be 55 or 60, it's the law.
Right, yes.
So we're down there.
I'm of Cuban descent, so it's genetically predisposed.
Yeah, you can go back.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, one of the things that I discovered, we're down in the Sarasota area, was Cuban sandwiches. Yeah, it's a whole new taste treat.
Yes, it is.
It's tough to do things like play a lot of tennis or bowl or any of that stuff in Florida in the wintertime, because the place is full of people, and while some of them are on walkers, not all of them are on walkers. So.
Although tennis on walkers, watching it is a hell of a spectator sport.
Well, when I started to play in Florida, my first opponent was 93 years old, and he could beat the hell out of me because he had a lob shot, but I found out that sucker couldn't run. I mean, he was 93, he had arthritis. So you just had to hit the ball away from him. So I graduated from that to, the next thing. So what I'm trying to say in my own frantic way is I do have a life beyond writing, but not much of one. I have a nice family life. So.
Well, it's different. I mean, as a creator myself, people don't realize how important that core to one's life is to the art that you produce. Being a musician myself also, what kind of guitar do you have?
I have you know what? The thing about the guitar was that I said to myself,
how long have you been playing, first of all?
I've been playing since I was about 15 or 16, and talent is such an interesting thing to talk about. I think that a lot of people, I think talent is cheap. I think it's dirt cheap. It's right next to table salt in terms of it's how common it is.
Right.
But different people get certain amounts of talent in certain areas. And I come from a musical background, but I didn't get a lot. And I knew early on, I could see in terms of my writing that I was progressing beyond a lot of people at my age level. And when it came to people that I knew that played instruments, I just wasn't all that great. I had a pawn shop guitar. My first guitar was a silver tone. And I said to myself, this guitar is terrible, but in a way that's good because I'm a terrible player. And I learned that at that time, it was the 60s and 70s, folk music was big.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of stuff by Judy Collins and Phil Oakes, Bob Dylan, Dave Van Ronk. My goal at that time, if I couldn't write books, was to go to Greenwich Village and play at the Hungry Eye. So I said I was never going to buy a guitar, no matter how much money I got, that was a lot better than what I deserved to have. And since then, since I said that, guitars have kind of gravitated toward me. People give them to me because they know that I like to play. For my birthday, Christmas 2 years ago, my wife got me June Carter Cash's acoustic guitar. It's this beautiful Gibson Bluebird guitar. It has beautiful tone, and every time that I play it, I feel like the world's biggest imposter. So I've got a couple of Gibsons, and the thing about the Gibson guitar was, Dave Berry is this terrific guy, but he doesn't want to spend a lot of money. You know, he's a very saving soul. I don't want to say he's a tightwad, I just want to say he's a saving soul. So he comes up to me one day and he says, Steve, you want to get a Gibson guitar? I'm like, no, Dave, I don't want to get a Gibson guitar. I'm not good enough to get, not a Gibson, a Fender guitar. And he says, I know you're not, Steve, but the point is, they're having a sale. This is down in South Beach where Dave lives. He says, we can get 2 solid body Fender guitars, beautiful baby blue and an orange one for me. And the price will be like 3/4 what it would be if we buy 2 at the same time. So you buy one and I'll buy one, and we'll get the guitars a little bit cheaper. So I bought that one.
And you may get the celebrity discount there too.
I don't know if he did or not, because he was the one who actually got it. For all I know, he got the celebrity discount and pocketed it.
Right.
So I've got a lot of guitars, and some of them are damn nice. How good are you?
I'm okay. Yeah, I still play from time to time. I was very.
What that means is he's good.
I was really serious for.
That means he can play the spots off.
I was really serious for a while, and then sort of literally fell into comic books. But what kind of music do you guys play?
We play a lot of old rock and roll. Dave Berry's a genius because he likes to lowball the audience. For a while there, he was saying we had roadies to change our fingers when we had to go from E to A. And the thing is, Dave used to play for a group called the Federal Duck in college. And Mitch Albom, who's in the group, used to be one of these guys like the Piano Man, like Billy Joel.
Right.
He'd tinkle away and he'd have like the balloon glass on the bar.
Yeah.
He survived if people put money in the thing and they'd ask him to play different things and he'd be able to. Ridley played with a group called the Legendary Toast Points in Idaho. He's really good, classically trained voice and music. And Greg Iles, who's a suspense writer, he's a wonderful guitarist, and he played in a lot of rock groups. He gave me a really nice guitar. So a lot of people in the band can play, but I kind of suck.
Well,
I can play Louie Louie all night long, you know, or Wild Thing. That's not a problem.
So 1, 4, 5 progressions, they never die.
Yeah, I'm all right with guitars.
It's funny because I always saw, as I said, I fell into comics, and I always saw that the collaborative.
How'd you get into comics?
I got into comics. I read them as a kid.
Sure.
Then dropped them like a lot of people do when I discovered 2 very important things, which were baseball and girls, not necessarily in that order or preference. But then I just dropped it for many years, and then
The nice thing about baseball is that if you play it, the girls come.
you better be good at that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was working sort of meaningless day jobs to support my music thing, which was happening at night, and rediscovered comics through someone who I was working with who showed me some books, and I was really floored. This is going back about 20 years. I was floored by how far the medium had come, because to me, I remember books as I was a kid and the way they were written, and all of a sudden, here's this mature feel, this feel that's grown beyond anything that I remembered it being, and I got hooked, and then I just started collecting, and through the same retail job, ran into some comic artists. I went to art school and proceeded to graduate with an illustration degree and then tell myself I don't want to illustrate, I want to play music. I just did that for a while, and found myself talking to a comic guy, and then that led to a job, and I got hired instantaneously at this one company, and really kind of haven't had one work since. So I've been really lucky and really blessed, and then found that, you know, sometimes it's thank God for unanswered prayers, in the sense that if my music would have gone this way and I would have been successful there, I probably wouldn't have survived. I probably would have been a tragic case. But comics was a place that really I found home in, so I found myself there. But you also have a history with comics. I know one thing you've done with this in the past, but I think you've got a history here, don't you?
Oh yeah, any American boy has a history in comics. I grew up reading them. My story is the same as you. I went through a period where I didn't, and then I got kids and I started to read comics to them. And they loved them, and I immediately noticed, you know, just picking up the ones that I read when I was a kid, like Spider-Man and Hulk, how hip they got, how, I don't want to say realistic, because they weren't, you can't call a film realistic where, you know, Spider-Man is fighting villains like the Sandman, and yet at the same time, the guy had an inner life.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that with Superman or even Batman. I mean, nowadays we say Batman is this tortured hero and figure. And as a kid, you know, again, the central question, I think, from anybody, you know where they stand on comics, is you say to them, who is your favorite, Superman or Batman? What's your answer to that?
My answer was eventually Batman.
Yeah, mine was too.
Yeah.
Because Batman had no magic bullet. You
Right.
know, he had to do it because he was the thinking cat.
Yeah.
I like that. So I came back to it that way, and I've never really been attracted to the field because what sort of visual impetus I had went into screenplays. When I was early in the writing, you know, I made my money writing books, and I was able to support my family there, and I was happy with it because I love novels. But I also love movies, and early on, I wrote a screenplay for Something Wicked This Way Comes, the Ray Bradbury thing, and it was more or less just sort of a trial effort to see if I could do it and to try to master the format and that sort of thing. And I was kind of like amazed at how my mind changed when I started to work literally in images and working in images, and that part of it's never changed. I've gotten more adept at the screenplay field, which is very close to what you guys do.
Yes, it is.
Extremely close, because when you, for people who don't know, when these guys develop scripts, it almost looks like a film script. This is what the artist is going to draw, and here's the dialogue, so it's very close to that. And when I wrote that way, I found that I was working at a much hotter pitch because I'm visually oriented in my mind, but my mind is like a camera. We were out there before the panel, and they were saying, what do people look like in your stories? And I'm like, if I see you, I can see what you look like. But if you're talking about the main character, if you're talking about a Roland in the Dark Tower, I mean, to me, this is the way he looks, because now I see him, and Jay Lee's artwork. But if you talk about like Lacey Landon, in Lacey's story, there's one, the novel is 500, 600 pages long, and there's one line of description. There's a line in there that says, Lacey's husband, Scott, thought that she looked like a fox in a widow. And I had no idea what that means, but it's just a phrase that came to mind. But I was writing from her point of view all the time, so I never really saw her.
Right.
So when I had visual impulses, they went toward that screenplay medium. And comics sort of stayed on the periphery until, I guess, Chuck Farrell, my agent, came to me and said, have you ever thought about comics? And I said, well, yeah, I worked with Marvel in the 80s because we did this thing from, I think it was Marvel Tales, wasn't it?
I think it was Moral Tales. I remember seeing it actually a few
The
months ago.
Lawnmower Man.
Lawnmower Man, right. And I think Walt Simonson had adapted the story and went in and dialogued it or something like that, right?
I did.
I know
Yeah.
your credit is there as
And I did. I wrote a lot of the dialogue, and I had a terrific time. It was like screen work on a smaller basis, and then, you know, this thing came up, and there was a whole creative team, which was good because I had. The thing with me is that I don't want to do something half. So that if I don't have the time to develop my whole attention to it, then my question becomes, who is it that's going to do this? You know, what are their creds? What is their street cred? And you know, obviously I knew all the people at Marvel because I read enough of the books, and I'm the kind of guy who just, as a rule, I want to see the credits.
Yeah.
So I guess in that sense I'm a fan.
Marvel, your universe.